It's Zach Edey with Purdue men's basketball, and you're watching Boilers in the Stands.
Welcome back to Boilers in the Stands following a Purdue 87-68 victory over Iowa, knocking off the dust from Northwestern, getting back in the W column in Mackey Arena. I'm your host, Joe Jackson. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, Kraig Bowers. We are live from Mackey Arena, a game that Purdue dominated pretty much from the start. The final score is only a 19-point difference, but the game was much wider than that. I think 35 was the largest lead at one point for Purdue. Just dominant pretty much from most players throughout the entire game, and Iowa couldn't really do anything, and Purdue pretty much got whatever they wanted. So, Kraig, we'll go to you. What are your kind of initial thoughts from the game?
Well, I mean, just that. It was a dominant performance, but I just got done typing my 10 quick thoughts for the Boiler Diehards group, and the thing that I kept coming back to constantly when describing different players tonight was aggression, was intensity, talking about them taking a kill shot straight out of halftime, so there were no chances of ghosts from 2016 rearing their head. I thought everybody just came out and played with a ton of aggression. I can't imagine what the last few days of practice have been like for Purdue. After losing to Northwestern when they had a comfortable double-digit lead and then just kind of let Northwestern creep back into it instead of putting their foot down when it looked like they could have at one point in time, there was none of that today. It was aggression from tip to finish from multiple players that I'm sure we'll talk about as we get into today.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's just you kind of look up and down and really nobody really you could say had a bad game. Maybe Colvin. But he was in some tougher spots as well. Like pretty much just everybody kind of did what they needed to today. Iowa couldn't get anything. And this is just who Iowa is. They're going to shoot a ton of mid-range shots. They're going to, their defense is based on keeping your man in front, and they struggle at doing that. And so now you see Edey just getting putbacks. You see, they're fronting Edey in the post, and now there's no help on the backside. And it's just easy buckets for him. Braden dominated the game with his passing and pacing. Just a good overall effort. And the last 10 minutes or whatever, you could tell they were just cruising through. But aside from that, it was just good everywhere. It was good to see. You follow the Northwestern loss. We were on Sleepers Media, and Greg mentioned that Purdue is now it's 20 straight games that Purdue has won at home following a loss, so they keep that streak going. And I don't have too much in depth, and we'll get into some of it, but just an overall good game. And Mackey was crazy. Lance Jones has so much fun playing basketball, and that's great to see. So just a good overall game from Purdue, I thought.
Yeah, no, start to finish and in many different ways from many different places. Some of kind of our typical go-to guys that are gonna have the big scoring games or whatever maybe didn't tonight. Like Braden didn't really score a ton tonight, but he still contributes with I think 6 points and 8 assists tonight or something like that, and just conducted the offense like a maestro at one point to put him on a 10-point run that really blew it up and just blew it open tonight. So, yeah, I mean, just all around high-quality performance, both offensively and defensively. And I know we'll get into this, but, we know Iowa is not a good defensive team. I mean, we know this. But for whatever Iowa is not defensively, they are offensively. They came in tonight ranked 15th in KenPom in total offense. They were averaging 91 points per game. And Purdue held that team to 24 points in the first half. And, they end up, I think, with 68 points total overall. but
Yeah.
a whole lot of those points came in junk minutes, down the stretch with 7 or 8 minutes to go after Purdue was up 30-something at that point in time. Just really impressive defensive performance, both protecting at the rim by Zach and TKR, and I don't give a crap what anybody says. That block was clean by TKR, but also just really making sure they were contesting shots and bothering guards off the dribble. Perkins got really frustrated a couple times tonight with guys just getting their hands in on balls when he was trying to drive and get into the paint. Just really impressive performance for me. It was a really good offensive game, but I was more impressed with what they did defensively just because Iowa is so good offensively.
Yeah, and Iowa's offensive system fits into what Purdue wants. Like, Purdue wants to force a lot of mid-range, and Iowa's taking a ton of mid-range shots right now, and they were tough ones. There was a few times, especially in the early going, Edey and TKR both get switched onto Iowa guards, and I thought they did a good job containing Bowen, containing Perkins, McCaffrey, kind of whoever it was out there. I thought they did a pretty good job there because, that's one thing that I would probably be looking to exploit is getting Edey, getting TKR, getting first out on the perimeter and going at them. And we're just kind of seeing consistently, especially from Edey, like these guards switch onto Edey and think they can do something. And it's much harder than they think. Unless they're going to shoot like a pull-up three, like Tyson Walker's a guy that can shoot a step-back three. That's going to get Edey. But if you're trying to drive, like Edey, you can beat Edey by a step, and it doesn't matter because he's still just going to be there and deflecting the shots. So, yeah, and I want to kind of hit on Edey, I guess, because 25 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 blocks in 24 minutes of play, like 9 to 10 from the field, 7 to 9 from the free throw line. Maybe this isn't prime Edey in the even then he's 9 for 10. But like say more like the 18 shots or whatever. But Edey got whatever he wanted. Part of it is Iowa's defense. Like they don't provide a ton of help at the rim, and so once one guy gets beat, it's kind of just a 2-on-1 from there. And Braden picked that apart with 8 assists. But you even saw Iowa fronting on defense and not providing backside help. There was a lot of good post-entry passing, I thought, to get Edey those looks. And the other thing, and we kind of mentioned this live during the game to each other, is Edey was not getting hook shots. He was getting dunks and layups. He was getting to the rim. He seemed kind of pissed off. Like he was just like, no, I'm like, this ball is going in. I'm not going to leave it for any chances. Like this ball, I am throwing it through the rim to make sure that it goes in.
Yeah, and the other thing that I really love to see, and I don't know if we're setting him up slightly different in the post than what we did last year, but a lot of the times we're making those post entry passes, he's a little bit more positioned to the side and kind of has an alleyway to the rim, and our guards have become really good, much better anyway, and multiple times tonight they're leading Zach to the rim with that pass instead of him catching it with his back fully to the basket. He's making that pivot and that move towards and sealing his man so that when that pass comes in, it's feeding him towards the rim as he catches it, so he can just continue in his motion and go up to the rim. Lance had one of those tonight. Lawyer had one of those from way far out on the court, which we love when it works, and we hate when it's against Northwestern and turns into a turnover. But I think I really like how we're approaching some of that entry passing so that it feeds Zach towards a layup or a dunk instead of having to take a couple of dribbles and turn and shoot a hook shot. Now he's got to get that position, but I think they're running some action or setting up where they're setting up for the entry passes maybe slightly different so that it can lead to that. I'll look for your breakdown of that to see whether that's true or not later on.
Yeah, I'll look for that for sure because it is just such an important part of getting Edey a clean look at the rim or something that's somewhat contested. And contested for him is different than most people. But, Owen Freeman for Iowa, he's arguably been the best freshman in the Big Ten so far. This was his first real Big Ten action, and you kind of just saw like, there's levels to this. Owen Freeman is going to be a good player, but they were leaving him one-on-one, even Kraig, just his first Big Ten action too, the transfer from Valpo. And it's for two big men that have been playing pretty well for Iowa. It's a tough, your first Big Ten matchup is going against Zach Edey. can't get more difficult than that. My bad. I think that was Craig's cue for I need to shut up. So, Craig, I'll throw it back to you. Who do you want to hit on?
Well, we could hit on multiple people.
Go for it.
You want me to do it, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. So everybody knows I'm a Lance Jones appreciator, and I know full well what Lance's strengths are, and what weaknesses he can have at times. But I love the aggression that he plays with. I love that he can turn a game. He scored 9 straight points in the second half in one stretch start the second half where he hits a 3, he gets a layup. He scored in multiple ways on that. I think he forced a turnover in that same stretch, and then not too long after that, he broke the press and then broke down their offense, drove to the rim and threw in a little alley-oop to Zach. I just love the aggression that he plays with, the confidence that he plays with, and he has that kill shot mentality of we're up, finish it, kill it. And I think that bleeds to the rest of the team. Now, some nights it's Northwestern, and we know Zach, there's going to be some nights where Zach's going to shoot, or not Zach, where Lance may shoot 1 for 7 or 2 for 6 from 3. Tonight he shoots 50%. I think he shoots, what the heck was it? He shoots 7 of 11 overall. Shoots 50% from 3. And you could tell he picks up that second foul, which was oddly reminiscent of the foul he picks up at Northwestern. I think both of those are questionable calls. To me, they're both maybe a little bit more play-ons than anything else. But he had to go sit at the bench. And when he got back in the game, he was friggin' ready. And he was aggressive from the jump and just blew the thing. If there was any question in doubt that Iowa might creep into it, he just went ahead and blew that out of the water altogether.
Yeah, I keep going back to it. Like this is the Lance Jones Northwestern and Iowa is like perfect Lance Jones experience. You're gonna get these games where he's just literally everything, brings all the energy, and then you're gonna get games where he takes a couple bad shots and he's can't find anything from the perimeter. I think and this is going back to the last game a little bit. Even with Lance Jones shooting bad, you just live with it almost. I know Painter's going to probably want to try to coach it to continue to be like, hey, let's bring that back a little bit, especially when you aren't hitting. But he's just so important defensively. He started the game on Bowen, and then once Perkins got going, that's who he switched on to. He's the guy that Painter's like, all right, I need you to go try to lock this guy down, and that's what Lance Jones brings more than anything. And just the joy. Like he's for anybody that's been to Mackey, they have like the halftime dance, like that. Lance Jones was getting in on it just in the very, very, very like small manner, but just the pure joy he plays with the off the back inbounds pass for the layup, like celebrating, kind of going down the court. It's kind of like the David Jenkins thing too. Just he's an easy guy to root for, I think. So
I love this. Read this one. I love this quote here.
From Taterology, too many pundits thought Lance was brought in to replace somebody when in reality he was brought in to enhance everybody. Yeah, that's fair. Like he's a guy that now he can be the defensive anchor, and that's going to relieve Smith and Lawyer, and he can help bring up the ball, and that helps relieve Smith and Lawyer, and he's a guy that's not willing to shoot, which helps relieve Edey in the post. I like that comment a lot.
Yeah. Hey, I think one thing we saw tonight, and we talked about it, but Cam and Ethan both gave some really good defensive minutes tonight. And, we kind of wondered after the last game because we love Fletcher Lawyer at this show. We think he's awesome in terms of what he does out there on the court. He's great offensively. But, I think he, if not now, at some point when his playing days are over, may look back on freshman and sophomore Fletcher and say he's not the greatest defensive player out there on the court. And at Northwestern, they picked on him. They kept on trying to get switched on him, and they went after him again and again. And there was a particular play in the first half where he got took off the dribble by McCaffrey, and Painter pulled him. And we kind of had that discussion of, if they're going after Fletcher, if they're attacking Fletcher after what happened at the Northwestern game, might we see some more Morton minutes or more Heidi minutes? And Painter pulled him. And then we got some really good minutes from Cam and from Ethan both. defensively during that stretch, and we had enough going on offensively around whichever of those guys was in there in the game at that point in time to continue to amass a lead. I think that gets much more difficult of a decision if you don't have offense coming from everywhere else, and then that's where, and Fletcher came back in later and played great offensively. Like, Fletcher's going to play. Fletcher's going to get minutes. But when you need defensive stoppers out there for a stretch, it's much easier for Painter to make that decision and to make that call when you have scoring coming from the other 4 positions on the court. When it's a night like Northwestern where scoring was a little more difficult, then it becomes a balancing act of, well, I have to have scoring out there, but I also have to be able to stop their scoring, and exactly what do you do?
And I've been thinking about this Northwestern game a ton, and Lawyer was bad defensively, yada yada, all that, no doubt about that. And I know there was a lot of call for Morden, and maybe Painter should have went to it. I'm not saying maybe he shouldn't have tried it more, but then I was also thinking, and I'm going to bring it back to Iowa in a second, but in that game specifically against Northwestern, your defense is as good as your worst defender. If Lawyer's off the floor, and I would say Smith's a better defender than Lawyer, but if I don't think we would say Smith's a great defender. And so if Lawyer's off the floor and it's Smith, Morden, Edey, Smith is the one that's going to, Bowie's going to be like, hey, Smith, come here right now. And then he's just going to take him one-on-one too. And so I think there's some of that as well. Whereas you get into a game like this where it's not as much, Iowa's a very free-flowing offense, lots of movement, lots of good shooters, lots of guys you kind of just have to worry about in general. And that's where, and Ethan Morton's perfect. He's a guy that, if you need a defense rotation, Ethan Morton's making. He's almost can, especially when Edey's off the floor, Ethan Morton can almost quarterback what the defense needs to do. He just has that level of intuition and knowing where everybody should be. That games like this, he's just so great. And I thought Edey was good defensively.
Yep.
I've seen it last game and this game, Painter's starting to trust Edey defensively more and more. Right now there's Edey's still getting the first stints and Colvin's getting the second stint in the second half. And there's definitely going to be Colvin games, especially when he really gets it going from 3. But right now, I think he just trusts Edey more than Colvin, and it's because of the defense. Painter knows he can get offense from pretty much whoever he wants. But Edey comes in and he guards Bowen, which is who Jones was on first against Northwestern. Edey comes in and he guards Bowie. So that's just something that I thought Edey did pretty well, and I'm excited to see him continue to grow, because out of Edey and Colvin, Purdue needs at least one of them to be a positive defender this year, 100%.
Yeah. And I, like you said, I think Cam's role is just going to continue to grow. I think the more we see him out there, I don't know what his 3-point shooting is on the year, but it's got to be over 40%. Because he doesn't take a bunch of them. But I want to say it feels like he's shooting around 40%.
He's 5 for 9, 56%.
56%. So, when he does get a wide open look, I think he's just going to get more comfortable and more confident. And I think he'll start to take that shot a little bit more as long as he continues to see him go down. And he's got a pretty stroke. Miles can get that 3 more often, and he can get it off quicker. When he's shooting well, he hasn't necessarily shot well the last couple of stretches that he's got, and Miles can maybe do a little bit more in terms of getting to a mid-range pull-up. We saw him attack off the bounce late in this game and get to a little 3 or 4 foot bank shot type of situation, and he can do those things also. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that they're both going to see minutes as this year goes on, and I think it's just going to be a matter of how they each grow in terms of who gets more minutes. And also, again, what does Painter need? If he's in a game where he really needs scoring and he's not getting it from the positions he wants it to, then there's a chance you're going to see more Miles minutes, as long as he's not hurting defensively. On the other side, I think we do need to remember Iowa's not full of just a bunch of super fast, super athletic dudes. So as we talk about that in terms of all these different guys that had really good defensive nights and keeping their man in front of them and everything, it's great to see it, and I love that they played super aggressive defensively. But and Iowa has a really high scoring offense, but they don't have guys other than Perkins that are individually going to break you down off the dribble, which tends to be what gives us the most trouble.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with a lot of what you said. Corey Lesney says Cam lacks handles and decision making, though. On this team, I don't see how he fits. In terms of being like a point guard, sure. But I think for what he needs to do, he's kind of found a rhythm for the most part of he's in the corners and he just, he's either catch and shoot or he's going to take 1-2 dribbles baseline, get to the rim or pass out. I don't think they need like a facilitating role out of him. I just think they need him to do his job. And I think he's, for the most part, done pretty well on that on offense. Even they ran some Chicago action for him a little bit and stuff, and more reps. He's just going to grow with that. Same thing with Colvin, with some of the decision making in that as well. Let's see. We've gone through Jones, Edey. I say just in general, I guess the interior, like TKR, everybody was just physical. Like everybody was just physical, and it was just good to see. Like they had 50 points in the paint, this team. Purdue had 50 points in the paint today. Iowa had 68 points total. That's tough to beat if you're going up against that. And it was just good to see. I mean, Edey had 9 offensive rebounds. Like that's kind of wild too. Purdue, and let's bring up the stats. I guess I'm kind of reading them off already. But yeah, Purdue wins 87-68. Man, that's so small. I get it now. Last year I didn't get it with you guys saying it was so small. I get it now. Purdue only out rebounds 41-35, and I would say a lot of that was kind of garbage time. 24 assists on 34 made shots for Purdue, kind of been what they've done this year. It has been one of the highest assist rate teams in the country, obviously led by Braden Smith with 8 for 25 from 3, which is 32%. They started off pretty hot, 5 for 11 though. Iowa only shoots 25 of 65 overall, 38%. As we transition to these stats here, anything kind of really stand out to you, Kraig?
You caught me off guard. That was faster than I thought you were coming to me.
I don't think we need to read off every single stat,
Right. I'm a little bit shocked that we only had 3 fast break points, honestly. I thought we didn't create a ton of turnovers, but still got 8. I felt like we had a few more times where we got out and ran. I know Lawyer had that 3, right? So
yeah,
is that it? That's our only fast break points on the night,
I guess.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
It felt like more than that to me, but
yeah. For me, I already mentioned the points in the paints. Yeah, I think that's the big one. Like it was just Purdue absolutely dominated on the interior, and that was what won them the game. So,
yeah. And rebounding earlier when the game still mattered. The rebounding margin was over 10 at that point in time. So, I think that was still really significant, even though the end margin didn't end up being all that huge.
Yeah, I agree. So, Gillis has 12 points, 2 or 3 from 3. Did have, I believe, 1 or 2 turnovers as well. I'm trying to see if I can get that pulled up really quick. There it is. Nope, that's not it. My bad. 2 turnovers for Gillis, and that's kind of been a thing that's plagued him a little bit is the turnovers. He had Brock Harding ripped him on the one where he's just kind of loose handle up at the top. I forget what the other one is, but the 12 points, only 1 rebound, but still just I thought he was physical. Is he Purdue's best bench player right now?
Gillis?
Yeah.
I mean, have to be for sure. And I think it likely continues that way. Obviously there's certain defensive matchups that first just provide some athleticism, and his ability to switch and guard multiple positions and be a little bit bigger and contest at the rim a little bit better than what Gillis can, may be the most important at different times off the bench. And I'm not done at all saying where Cam and Colvin are going to end up either. Like, I think both of those have the chance to potentially grow into one of the most important players off the bench before the season's over. It's early, man. I think people need to. He got off to a quicker start than either of these 2 guys, but also didn't have the team there. People need to remember what Jaden looked like through his first 7 or 8 games of the year, his freshman season. It was not overall pick Jaden Ivey after the first 8 games. So
Yeah.
I think those two have a chance to not grow into Jaden Ivey this year, but had to grow into a chance to really, really contribute and be really important still before the year's over.
Yeah, and I still think that ultimately Painter's going to trust one more than the other, and that's who's going to get the minutes, and then maybe the other gets spot minutes. I have no clue who that's going to be. I guess I have a slight clue. I would lean Edey, but yeah, like you said, it's still 9 games into the season, 2 big tests coming up that could maybe help decide that a little bit, and then a couple bye games, and then it's into Big Ten play the rest of the way. It's a good problem to have of not really knowing who exactly is going to be the guy that ends up in that final rotation. So, both provide different things. We've kind of hit on them at length in this show. Is there anybody else specifically you want to hit on before we kind of move on to maybe some of like the comments and stuff like that?
Yeah, I don't know that I kind of talked about Smith in opening. I don't feel like, whatever. Like Smith was great in terms of just running the show. I guess our new level of was it a really good Smith game or not was how close he gets to a triple-double, and he only had 2 points tonight. But again, 8 assists, 6 rebounds, just controlled the court during certain segments of this. And let's not forget. And I thought he was much more in control in his passing tonight. Again, not near the pressure that Northwestern puts on. But it sure seemed like, at least until it was up to like a 20, 25-point lead, that Braden was purposely making sure he took care of the basketball a little bit better in terms of what types of passes he was making.
Yeah, no, I thought he totally controlled this game, both pace and passing. 8 assists, 1 turnover. Like we've kind of hit on throughout. This is not a great defense. This is one of the worst defenses in the Big Ten that we'll see. But at the same time, like Smith still did his thing. He has that it factor, and I've the opposing point guard Brock Harding. I also think he has it. Just that ability to, they just know where everybody's at on the floor at all times. Like I'll when I do my thread tomorrow, I'll make sure I include this one. But the one fast break Lawyer 3, Braden. The ball was not even close to across half court, and Braden knew that's where the ball was going. Like you can see him in fast, even as he's pushing the ball now. He's catching the ball, looking, and he just knows where the ball is going to go. I think it was, I forget, it was either last game or 2 games ago at this point. Like there was one that Braden gets the ball and he just sprints at Edey's man on the elbow, like in transition, knowing that Edey's man's going to step up to him, and he knew he had Edey trailing the entire way. Now Edey gets a wide open dunk. It's just, it's something to see. Like he's one of the best passers in the country. Sometimes that gets him in trouble because of how good he is, but he's one of the best passers in the country without a doubt.
Yeah, no doubt. And hopefully we see way more games like the 7 that were not Northwestern, so that he continues in that ascension in terms of how he's viewed on the national spectrum, and that only means good things for us. Jeff, real quick, you said, when is there going to be Boilers in the Stands merch dropping? Really need a shirt and a hat. That is already dropped. It is out there. We've posted the website. We posted the website out there on the Boilers in the Stand Twitter, and I think Joe and I both shared it too. Really excited about the merch. Thought it turned out really good in terms of the design. I've got several coming my way. That's one way that you guys can support us. A lot of people ask, what they could do to support the show. Buying merch certainly does that in some way for sure. For any of you guys wondering, like, what this means to players, just to give you a little bit of insight as we sit here next to the court, we just saw what really was a 30-point blowout that ended up being a 19-point game. And about 20 minutes ago, TKR came back out on the court and shot free throws for the last 20 minutes before he just went back into the tunnel. Something he's struggled with hitting consistently and comfortably. Once he gets in a rhythm, it seems like he's doing so, but that's what it means to these guys. Even after a 30-point win, they're still coming, or 19 technically point win. He's still coming out here to jack up free throws before he goes home tonight. Yeah,
and that's where we talked on the sleepers of, is there going to be like this mental block for Purdue? I don't see it. Really, I haven't seen it yet. I don't think we see it all year. This team went through the worst thing imaginable last March, and basically everybody returns. There's two players, right? Jones and Colvin that weren't at that game, a part of Purdue. This team is going to keep fighting. This team is just going to keep working. They're even if they were undefeated, they started the season 20-0. I just don't think they'd be satisfied at all, and that's a good thing to have when you also have one of, if not like the most, one of the most talented rosters in the country, the best player in the country by far. So yeah, it's a good time. About 30 minutes in, this is obviously, with it being a blowout, I don't think we have as much to talk about. One thing, I guess, where I'm getting to is we have some comments starred. If you have any questions or anything, kind of throw those in right now. We'll get to them, or try to get to them. One thing I think we do need to do before getting to those, and maybe there was a comments about it, and if there is, my bad. Purdue attacks the press. Iowa's press is not the most intense, but they do have a lot of length. They have caused Purdue issues in the past. And so I think Purdue fans are just happy to see in general, like, hey, Purdue pushing the ball. I think that's what you see when Purdue has two legitimate ball handlers on the floor at all times. Like when Lawyer becomes the third option for ball handling, I think that means you're in a really, really good spot. And I don't know if there's anything else really to add to that. If you do have something, go for it. But just in general, I think we needed to touch on it real quick.
No, and I think too, we talked about this in game. I continue to be amazed by the fact that Lawyer can go up and just draw contact and not even be looking at the rim. Like his head's not even up looking at the basket. He just knows, like he just has a feel for where he needs to put that ball on the glass based upon his proximity to the rim to put it in. He just takes that contact and kind of flips it up right towards the top of that window and drops it in over and over and over again. And it just amazes me.
Yeah. He understands angles. And when people talk about like Lawyer not contributing anything if he doesn't shoot, I've harped on like, hey, he's a guy that gets downhill. Sometimes it gets swatted, 10 rows deep, but a lot of times he just gets this funky layup to go, and it's a good thing. So we're going to rattle through some of these comments, 10, 15 minutes, and then call this show good. Andy Buck, Morton was the first sub off the bench. Pushing the tempo can work for this team against the right opponent. Yeah, I agree. This was I'm trying to go back through, but I think Morton's been the first sub sometimes as well. I know it's been Edey as well. But yeah, having Morton in a game like this where he feels comfortable handling the pressure. I think he had 5 assists, 4 rebounds. Like he contributed in ways besides scoring the ball. Morton playing in a system and just being able to be within the system and not have to do anything outside of it, offensively and defensively, like he's going to absolutely excel in those types of games, I think. Well,
and Morton was first off the bench in this game because of what happened. Fletcher let McCaffrey drive on him and score, kind of with a little like bullfighting whoopsie-doo there. And Painter said in the Northwestern post-game press conference that he's just trying to find guys that can play both ends of the court. And I think Painter was just trying to make a point there that if you're not going to guard, or if you can't guard, you're going to come to the bench for a little while. So specifically, I think that's why Morton might have been first off the bench one other time this year, but it's generally been Edey and Gillis, one of those two, depending on how quickly TKR comes out of the game.
Yep. Next from Jeff Parks, Lance played really well tonight. I think he was pressing Friday because he wanted to perform for his hometown folks. I know you were talking with Rafael Davis about this a bit, so I'll let you kind of take this one.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, who knows? Because that's also just a 1-for-7 night is not out of the realm of possibility for Lance. But I think you combine the factors of going home, being in the hometown, a whole bunch of family there, wanting to show out in first Big Ten road game atmosphere that is your hometown and everything else. I think maybe he was pressing a little bit, and not so much just even with the scoring, but maybe trying to, he takes those defensive battles seriously. And one of the things Rafael talked about in that was he thought there were times where he tried to fight through and not give up Lance on a defensive assignment when Purdue's principals would say to pass Lance off to the next guy. which looks like it's admirable because he's trying to shut that guy down, but then it also kind of throws everybody else out of rotation to where Langberg or what's the other guy's name? Barry might get an open look off that or something. So yeah. I didn't go back and rewatch the film, so I don't know. That was just something he referenced in there. So yeah, maybe Lance was pressing a little bit. Maybe it was just one of Lance's nights where he shoots 1 for 7. All I know is in 3 out of 4 games, he's shooting over 50% in 3 out of his last 4 games. So I'll take that. If we have one night where he goes 1 for 5 or 1 for 6 and 3 other nights where he's shooting 50% from 3, I'll live with that.
Yep. And you just hope that night that you have more than just a Lawyer being able to knock down a perimeter shot. Next up from Gentry BN. It's clear it's a myth that Purdue has starters on the bench. Only Gillis is that. Without Gillis, did our backup score like 4 points the final 7 minutes is what that's saying. I agree with this. Like, I think we came in like, oh man, Purdue has this crazy depth. And I think there are 10 players that can provide value to Purdue without a doubt. They're not all deserving of like the same number of minutes, though, I think currently. And, Colvin and Edey, obviously they're freshmen. That's just going to take time. Martin's, I think, in a better role for himself where it's going to be closer to that 15 minute a game mark where he doesn't have to do too much as well. But yeah, I think coming in, we slightly oversold like, hey, this team is, how is Painter even going to play all this talent? It's still true to a degree, but maybe just not quite as much as we were thinking.
Yeah, I do think it's important, too, though, to keep in mind that it's just really hard to get in a rhythm with the amount of minutes some of these guys are playing. So if they were playing starter minutes, they may look entirely different. And Painter's not running hockey shifts, right? So these guys around several of the other starters can still contribute extremely, extremely positively. And I'm still convinced. Now, it depends on who we're talking about. Are we talking Illinois? Are we talking Ohio State? Or are we talking starting for Penn State and Minnesota? Because I can guarantee you that Morton, Edey, First, Gillis are going to find starting roles on some of those bottom 5 teams.
Yeah.
I'm not Morton. Colvin. Sorry. Colvin is who I was saying.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. There was a comment about the press. I should have just let it be. Scott White said, "We attacked the press, best I've seen in a long time." Yeah, I don't think they had a turnover against the press. If they did, it was 1. Purdue only had 8 turnovers in general in this game. This game had 62 possessions, so like a 14% turnover percentage, 15% turnover percentage, something like that, which is I believe that's below their. Yeah, they average 17.3% turnover percentage, and turnover percentage is just how percentage of possessions that you have a turnover on. Today was 12.3. I was doing it backwards, which was their second lowest turnover percentage of the year. Good thing to see. Good thing just to see them attack the press. Multiple ball handlers. Smith, Jones can get downhill. Lawyer, I think, can, maybe he's not going to take it coast to coast, but he can also advance the ball if needed. And Gillis dribbled forward I think once or twice. That's a big thing as well. He did not do that last year.
Yeah. Now, a few times that we've seen Gillis try to dribble, it's also led to a turnover.
Yeah.
So there's been times when it's worked. There's been times when it hasn't. But specifically against that's more when he's trying to drive in a half-court offense. So, I love that. And the thing that, Lance and Braden attack the press in different ways. Lance is big enough and physical enough that he throws over top of the press a lot of times. He's only 6'1", but he's a true 6'1". So if you guys don't, we walk by these guys in the hallway and we know who's telling the truth on their height. Okay. Lance is a true 6'1", and he's big enough a lot of times to go ahead and see above the press and throw over top of the press and attack it that way. Braden tends to dice it up, just dribbling through it a lot of different times, but they're also just moving the ball a lot more. I was impressed one of the times they set up and impressed the first time Colvin came in, and I was like, oh, well, let's see how this goes. And he moved the ball fast and decisive. He didn't try to turn and dribble in it. He turned, he found the open man, and he swung the ball right away up the court, not backwards. So I was even impressed with the way he handled it tonight too.
Yeah, 100%. Good game all around attacking the press. From Andy Buck, do you think Edey and Colvin get a lot of minutes against Bama and Arizona? I would assume they're normal. I could see Edey maybe getting some just because he is a little bit bigger, especially against like Bama. But I don't. I would think normal for the most part, and then if something crazy happens, Painter can adjust the rotations from there. But nothing really stands out to me. I don't know about you, Kraig.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of Bama right now. They were held in really high regard starting the season out, and they haven't looked great. But they are athletic and they are long. So it'll be interesting. If you get a longer wing that starts going off, you might see more Edey minutes in that game. I don't know. It'll play out how it'll play out. And if they need more athleticism, you might see a little bit more Colvin. You might see a little bit more Edey. But I think Lance has just proven his value to such a degree at this point that we need to assume that he's going to get 20 to 25 minutes a game.
Oh, easy. For sure. JB, our guard / wings did not get to the free throw line once tonight. I didn't recognize that because Purdue was so dominant in the interior. Like it might have. I would assume that's just because like there was no need for the guards to drive that much because Edey and TKR kind of did what they wanted down low. Yeah, I don't know. Lawyer had a few good drives. Colvin took one off the bounce, which is good to see because he hasn't not been comfortable dribbling the ball really, I don't think, this year. So that was good to see. He gets the baseline dunk kind of in that Edey situation. So do you have any thoughts on the guards and wings not getting to the free throw line once tonight?
Yeah, that's how bad Iowa is defensively. They're so bad defensively that they're not even close enough to you that they're going to foul you. That's my takeaway on that.
Yep. Another one from JB. Any thoughts about the Alabama matchup? Haven't seen them play yet. Kraig kind of hit on it. They're like a team that is supposed to be pretty good. They have not played great so far. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting matchup, right? Because they are going to play crazy fast. They are going to jack up a ton of threes, and they're going to try to get to the rim a lot. So, they have. I'm interested to see what they do because Grant Nelson's kind of playing their five. I don't know if he gets Edey. They're a team that has length, but they're not like. I don't know if they're like overly like gigantic. I feel like some of the past Alabama teams were like really big, and I don't know if Alabama quite fits that this year.
Yeah, I've only watched them play once, and it was really early in the year, and they still just I don't know. They kind of look like some of the Kentucky teams have looked in the last few years that weren't very good, where they have a lot of individual talent, but the team doesn't fit together right. Like the pieces don't all fit together right. And they really haven't seemed to be able to learn how to play together yet to maximize everybody. We hope that they don't figure that out on Saturday in Toronto. Yeah, I don't know. The game's lost a little bit of its. It's lost a little bit of its luster just because they've had some losses, but I still think it's the type of team in terms of weapons that they have and athleticism, being able to break people down off the dribble, that could present some challenges. So,
yeah, two more to go from Kraig Bowers. This Facebook user says, Kraig Bowers, you look whipped coming up the stairs before the game tonight. Get some sleep when you get home. Must be that jet lag from Maui catching up with you. You still trying to recover from the Hawaii trip?
No. What that was all about was I had to spend the weekend. For those that don't know, I raise sheep, and I had to spend the weekend cleaning out my barn. And that was my back, my knees, my ankles, my arms. I worked muscles that I haven't worked in months and months. That was a lot of pain that you saw me in coming up those stairs as I was really, really sore after a weekend of cleaning out barn.
There you go. Last one from Tom White. Any of you guys going to Bama game? I am not.
I was like, you are?
No, I'm not.
Well, you kind of paused there. I thought maybe something changed.
I was setting it up.
Yeah. Yes, I am going. Flying up Friday and coming back Sunday. So a really short trip. Really looking forward to it. Again, just like Hawaii, I've never been to Toronto before. I hear it's an awesome place. Gonna get up there early enough on Friday to be able to spend some time in the city and see what Toronto's all about. And I'm just really looking forward to the game. But also, I can just imagine. I know Zach has a huge following in Canada, and I just have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of things surrounding that game in regards to Zach that'll be fun to see, and fun to see fans up there wearing Zach gear and whatnot. And a different. I love you all that come to the games already, but it'll be interesting to see just a different group of fans that maybe don't normally get to go to a game. So definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. And that'll kind of wrap it up here. One quick thing. Alex Rockwell goes, how about Fran and his tech? LOL. Didn't work quite how he wanted, I think, over a timeout versus possession. Yeah, Fran 1,000,000,000% wanted the technical right there because he had like multiple assistant coaches and players like shove him like to get back, and he was like, no. He wanted that technical just to try to fire up the team, and it didn't quite work out. But that's who Fran McCaffrey is, and it's entertaining to watch. So, Kraig, do you have anything else before we get out of here?
I do not. I think we hit on every major thing that we need to hit on. Other than that, before you guys get out of here, if you would, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Just helps other people find our content. And as always, follow us if you're a new listener here at Boilers in Stands on Twitter. And you can follow me at Kraig Bowers 34 on the Twitter as well. And if you're a true diehard Purdue fan, you can join the Boiler Diehards Facebook group. And once we vet you, let you into that group as well.
Yep. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Jackson CBB. We'll have the Purdue Iowa film breakdown tomorrow, plus some bunch of other Big Ten stuff. Follow us on Twitter at Boilers and Stands. We have our merch shop on Twitter. We'll try to link that for next game in the show as well. So if you want to support us in that way, we really appreciate that. And yeah, hit the like button. If you are watching so far and you aren't subscribed, please subscribe. We're on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts if you do prefer the audio platform. And yeah, we appreciate everybody tuning in. 2 big games coming up, both Saturday games. So Purdue has a few days now to get some rest, get ready for Alabama this Saturday up in Toronto, and then the following Saturday, Arizona in Indy. Going to be 2 really good games, I'm hoping, and just 2 more chances for Purdue to build that non-conference resume. So once again, appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you all Saturday after the Alabama game.